love it. Sip your coffee as we get ready, Brent, to dive in right now and talk about Bills, okay, and the Dolphins. Listen, when I look at this matchup again, this is every single year, to me, one of the best games to watch, right? You don't know what's going to happen, whether it's an early start or, like I said, a fast start or a slow fit. Whatever happens in this game, these two quarterbacks go head-to-head. And I have a photo from last year where I believe Josh Allen had his head onto his arm. Like, man, this was a tough bout. But, Brent, what do you got going on right here with Josh Allen, heading into play in Miami?
Well, I have two things about this game and then a thing that concerns me from the perspective of a Bills fan. First of all, you have to look at the Bills versus the Dolphins with this sort of historic Mike McDaniel team. The Bills have shellacked them. I don't know what it is. They can't seem to stop Josh Allen. He has owned them. He has owned Tua in these matchups. Also, other than their win against Dallas, Miami has not beaten a team with a winning record all season. And they got it was like 40-something to 13 to Buffalo earlier in the year. So my concern is...
And then the Ravens.
And they got smoked by the Ravens, so they've been beat by some of the top teams in the league pretty handedly. My concern for Buffalo in this matchup would be, A, they're in Miami. B, it's the end of the season and everything is on the line. And C, it's always hard, Brandon, and you should share this in your own experiences. What's it like the second time you have to play a team in a season and potentially a third time to have to play them also? I mean, I'm sure that plays into it as well. Is that right?
That's an interesting point. You play one game, you prepare a certain way, and here's two things. If you get beat, right, you're looking at everything how you got beat, because when they come back into your stadium or at their stadium, they know what worked last time, so they're going to use some of that, and they'll make some changes. So that's if you won or if you got beat, it's going to be a lot different. Now, if you won the matchup and you're heading into the stadium, you're like, listen, I know how we did this last time, right? It's a little bit different, and you're kind of feeling like, okay, what changes can we make to solidify another W? But, Brent, what I have that's a little bit more interesting, I think right now, outside of playing once or twice, I'm going to break this down for you and what I actually believe. I think Tua was a way better quarterback, my opinion, before this. Now, the reason why I say that is not because he's not still talented, not because he doesn't still show stats. It's because they can't, girls would say, let the hair down, right? Let it go, leave it on the field, play your heart out. I don't think he can do that right now, because I think he has in his mind, I think the coaches have in their mind, I think the fan base has in their mind, more importantly, his family is like, look, you're borderline in some heavy situations right here if you get hit again, or if you happen to hit your head in a certain kind of way. Doctors explained this, and he went back in the game too early, and this was a problem. I don't think that, by any stretch is Tua a bad quarterback. I don't think that he's not someone that's gifted. I'm just saying he's not able, to play lights out. And people said, oh, no, he can't scramble. Brent, people had said to me in other clips, look, he can't scramble. He doesn't have the speed. If you ask me, Tua has all the ability to run, to get around. I'm not saying he's a Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying he's like Mike Vick, but he can at least be somewhat like Josh Allen. He can make people miss. I seen him do it in college. But now in the NFL, obviously, we want to save. You want to save. You get hit. I get it. But he is that opportunity to get outside the pocket and make people miss. The defense is not scared of that anymore. And that's a concern, because they become kind of not one-dimensional, but they look, when you pass the ball, you don't have to spy on Tua anymore.
The concussion thing is scary, and I'm sure that you, Brandon, either yourself, we haven't talked about it on the air here, but or with teammates, probably more so, right, having suffered concussions and seeing what that's like. The stuff with Tua was incredibly scary, right? And they said he only had 2. That's nonsense. He had 3. I mean, his hands looked like he was, it was incredible. It was incredibly scary. If I were his family, I certainly would have recommended he not play football anymore after those, or at least sit out for an extended period of time, which kind of he did. It was a year later, the next season, right? But I do agree with you, though. That has to be in the back of your head, right? If
100%.
not in the athlete's head, at least in the people around him that are talking to him on a regular basis, his head, right? It's in my head with my son. My son
You're
suffered
thinking about it all day.
Yeah, my
You're
son suffered two concussions in a 3-week period, and they had him go back after 2 weeks, and I'm nervous as hell every time he touches the ball, right? It's like, because you just don't know, right? And it's like, he doesn't think about it, but I think about it, right? And
Agreed.
I can't imagine that family and trainers and other people aren't concerned about this. And if they're talking and yapping in your ear all the time, it might be in his head when he's trying to play. I don't know, but
there's no doubt in my mind that when that happened, I made plenty of conversation on this, on lives, on all social media. You're a great player. You accomplished so much. Winning in Alabama, coming up, starting over Jalen Hurts, them benching him. You did it all. You came into the NFL. You played great. Yeah, you didn't win a Super Bowl. But there comes a point in time, you made your money, you're relaxed, you have a family now, you have a kid at home. And it's like, it might be like, hey, I accomplished a lot. I don't have to try to go out. You're already a hero. Let's not try to make you like Gladiator, because one wrong hit for anybody is detrimental. But for Tua, I think there's a lot of conversation. When he gets hit and he's laying on the ground for more than 3 seconds, the world's like, uh-oh, what just happened to Tua? And I think that's a problem heading into this game.
Brandon, NFL, not to carry this on, but NFL player perspective, question for you. If you're a defensive guy, are you more cautious now when you go after Tua than you were before because you don't want to be the guy that kills him?
You know what? That's a great
Or you don't
question.
even think about that. You don't care.
I will say this. Before the game, it's already in people's conversation, right? I'm not saying the team's in a locker room talking about this right now, but I'm saying people are talking about this like we're talking about this. But when you're on the field before plays, you know a lot of this. When the ball is snapped, it's game on, right? It's lights out.
You're not thinking about that stuff when the ball's snapped.
I'm making the play. The reason why it's so important, Brent, is because that linebacker, that defensive lineman, that corner, that safety, if they don't make the play, they're not going to be playing, right? Like they got to make the play, make an impact on that play. So there's no no thought in your mind when you're going, except for at practice when they got that red penny on where you can't touch the quarterback, right? I mean,
Gotcha.
That's the reality. And the photo we have here of these two quarterbacks in the kind of position they're in now, both been playing for several years now. This is a point in their career where they have to start making an impact. And this is a big game, I promise you, for both of these quarterbacks. Yeah, Josh Allen has proved a lot. Tua has proved a lot. These players are playing, and they need to make sure that they have a great impact this week in Dolphin Stadium. The Bills need this to even get to the playoffs.
So question for you on this matchup, Brandon. This is really interesting, okay? Tua banged up his shoulder at the end of the game, right? So questionable. They're not really saying what the deal is. Bradley Chubb tore his ACL, is out for the season. Jalen Waddle is not playing in this game, stud receiver. Xavier Howard, their starting quarterback, out in this game. Now, I know that what's on the line for Miami isn't a playoff spot. They're already clinched. But the 3 seed and home field advantage is on the line for Miami. But do you for a second consider maybe letting them play a half and then sitting them and just kind of saying whatever? Or are you all in on this and you go to the wall and try to win this game regardless of health of players?
So that's another interesting point. So basically,
in other words, do you do what John Harbaugh did and sit your players because you're already in, or do you play for home field advantage? Because that's what's on the line right now for Miami is home field advantage.
Yeah, and this is similar like you said about the Ravens, like, are they going to play or not? So, and people are watching this, are like, okay, first off, Bills or Dolphins in the chat right now. Who do you got, Bills or Dolphins? Put it in the chat, and you can call in live just so you know. At the top of the chat there's a link you can hit, and you can call and you can talk live through the whole show. And tomorrow we'll have a phone number for you that pops up from the bottom. so you can type on your cellular device. Or any iPad
Devon
device
says that the Bills are going to smoke them because the Dolphins have too many players injured. So that goes to my question, Brandon. If you're Mike McDaniel, if Brandon Mason is the coach of the Dolphins, do you just say, hey, wait a minute. So we might not win this game. Like, do we just rest our guys and kind of go into the playoffs healthy and give ourselves an extra break? That might cost us home field, but at least we'll be healthy going into the playoffs.
So the
what do you say, Brandon?
It's not just about that game. It's not just about like, hey, that game we're going to sit out. What happens is these players are kind of riding it easy all week now too. So yeah, if we just stayed out that one game, it'd be like, okay, but they're not going as hard all week because they're injured. They're not going all week because they're star players and it's just practice, and that's a problem. So when you get to the game, that's another day, and when they come through the tunnel and you don't have your starters here, you're going to see a lot of mistakes that happen naturally. Like I said, timing, route running, the defensive calls, who's the leader of the defense, how people work together, how the defensive reads roll. So people are going to be looking at this a little bit different, and I believe that it will be detrimental if they don't play at all. Now, if they played the first half, would be the best opportunity. Play the first half, try to still get your win, or at least be very competitive. But more importantly, home field advantage in the playoffs is massive because you're going to play on your turf. You're going to play in the weather conditions that you like and you appreciate. The Miami Dolphins, some players could be from New York. Some could be from Chicago or from California. But these players now, I lived in Miami for a long time, and your blood changes. You become warm-blooded where the cold affects you different. If you have to go then play a playoff game in a place like Buffalo, a place in the north, even San Francisco, is a lot colder than it is in Miami. I mean, so it isn't like you're in California, so it's ultimately warm, right? It's going to be cold in the northern places. So the teams that right now, that
if Miami loses, here's the deal. If Miami gives up this game, they go to Kansas City. That's it. If they lose this game, but here's my point. They might lose the game anyways. Don't you want to go to Kansas City with your guys healthy and rested and not banged up from a losing Bills game? This is my point. I don't – Mike McDaniel's going to try to win this game, and he's going to play his guys. And I would say, I don't know, man. I'd rather go to Kansas City healthy than, if I'm a Bills fan like you, that's a great idea because now all of a sudden
it is.
I support it.
You need the Steelers to lose, so you're excited about the opportunity. But the truth is, you can do that. You can go ahead and do that before we move on to Tyreek Hill and his house. Look, we can do that. You can sit those players, but now in your mind, you're like, okay, Kansas City, is not that great this year. But Kansas City, here's the problem. Miami hasn't really beaten anybody that's that good. So you don't want to play at Arrowhead Stadium when the toughest places to play. The weather conditions are going to change drastically.
Look,
it's
they're not going to do that.
You're going to be away.
Not going to do that.
Hold on.
They're not going to
be
this,
away
Brandon,
against
but they
Patrick
should.
Mahomes. I don't like it. I don't like going against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce away. I don't care what's going on.
They've not been good. They got beat by Buffalo in Kansas City. They got beat by Las Vegas in Kansas City. They've been getting beat in Kansas City. I'm telling you, if I'm Mike McDaniel, and he's not going to do this, and there's a reason why I'm not an NFL coach. If I'm Mike McDaniel, I say, you know what, guys? Kansas City is not the Kansas City of the old. They've been beat in Arrowhead. Let's stay healthy. Tyreek, you're sitting. Jalen Waddle, you're sitting. Xavier Howard, you're sitting. Tua, you're sitting. We're going to get healthy, and we're going to go into Kansas City, and we're going to whoop them right out of their own stadium. That's what I would do if I was Miami, because what's going to happen is they're going to go play this game against Buffalo. Those guys are going to get more beat up, maybe even more hurt, and not be able to play in that game or play well when they lose anyways and their season's over. Period.
Listen, I like what you just said. I still hope that they play their players and fight all those Dolphins fans to be at the home game. And I want to open up my doors. You got travel time. I don't want to have to fly to Kansas City, waste time flying, get into a terrain I don't know. I'd rather be waking up in Miami, in my house, eating my food, showing up. That's what I would want to do.
Brandon, here's the flip side of that. You battle, you exhaust yourself, you win that game, you get home field advantage, and guess what? Next week, coming back, Buffalo.
Hey guys, thanks for watching and tuning into the Brandon Mason Show. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time.